This channel is created to help you improve your English listening skills in a calm and natural way. In each video, you listen to a long English story, spoken slowly and clearly. You can use the shadowing technique. Listen carefully. Pause the audio when you need. Repeat each sentence out loud. This method helps you understand spoken English better. Remember new words naturally. Feel more confident when speaking. Now relax, take a deep breath, and let's begin today's story. The story is called I Stayed Longer Than I Planned. Chapter 1. I did not plan to stay long. That was the first thing I told myself when I walked inside. Just a few minutes, I thought. I only wanted to sit down, rest for a moment, and then leave. The place was quiet. Large windows, soft light, wooden tables. People spoke in low voices, if they spoke at all. Some were reading, some were writing, some were simply sitting looking at nothing. I chose a seat near the window. I placed my bag on the floor and sat down slowly. My body felt tired, but my mind felt even heavier. I looked at my watch. I had time. At least that was what I told myself. I had been moving all day, from one place to another, from one task to the next. I woke up early, answered messages, finished work, ran errands. Everything felt rushed, even though no one was chasing me. When I finally stopped, it felt strange, almost uncomfortable. I crossed my arms and leaned back in my chair. The chair was firm but comfortable enough. I told myself again, just a few minutes. I looked around the room. A woman was sitting at a table across from me. She was reading a book and slowly turning the pages. A man near the wall was typing on his laptop. His screen glowed softly. In the quiet room, near the door, someone stood up and left. The sound of footsteps echoed briefly, then disappeared. The door closed gently. No one reacted. The room remained calm. I noticed how slowly everything moved. No loud sounds, no sudden movements. Time felt different here. I checked my phone. No new messages. I put it back into my bag. I did not feel like looking at it. I thought about leaving. I imagined standing up, putting on my jacket, and walking out. The image felt distant. Not impossible, but not urgent either. I stayed seated. I had come here many times before, but never stayed like this. Usually, I was in a hurry. I would sit, do what I needed to do, and leave. Today felt different. I was not doing anything. I was just here. I listened to the sounds around me. Pages turning, keys tapping softly, someone coughing quietly. Outside, a car passed by, then another. Inside, everything stayed the same. I checked the time again. More time had passed than I expected. I felt a small surprise. How long had I been sitting here? I tried to remember what I was supposed to do next. My mind felt blank. I rested my hands on the table. The surface was smooth and slightly cool. I followed a small line in the wood with my finger. It helped me focus. I breathed slowly, in, out. A thought came to my mind. Why am I still here? I did not answer it. Not yet. I watched as another person stood up. They packed their things carefully as if they did not want to disturb the silence. They nodded to no one in particular and walked toward the exit. Again, the door closed softly. Again, nothing changed. I realized something. No one was waiting for me. No one was checking the time. No one was expecting me to be anywhere else right now. That realization felt strange and a little uncomfortable. I was so used to being needed, so used to moving, responding, doing. Sitting without a reason felt almost wrong, but also calming. I leaned forward and placed my elbows on the table. I lowered my head slightly. I felt my shoulders relax. I did not notice when that happened. It was slow, natural. I closed my eyes for a moment. Just a moment. I listened to my breathing. I noticed how fast it had been earlier. Now it was slower, deeper. I opened my eyes again. The room looked the same, but I felt different. I thought again about leaving. I imagined myself outside. The noise, the movement, and the rush, the thought made me tired. I stayed seated. I realized I was staying longer than I planned. And for the first time that day, I did not feel guilty about it. I looked at my watch again. More time had passed. I smiled slightly, not because something special happened, but because nothing did. I noticed how calm the room felt, how safe, how neutral. No one asked me questions, no one needed answers. I could just exist. I wondered when I stopped allowing myself to do that, to just exist. Another thought appeared. Maybe I was not tired of moving. Maybe I was tired of always knowing where I was going. I leaned back in my chair again. The light from the window fell across the table. Dust floated slowly in the air. I watched it move. Slow, quiet. I stayed, not because I had nothing else to do, but because for once I did not want to rush. End of chapter 1. I didn't notice the exact moment when staying became intentional. At first, it was just a pause. Then it became something else. I sat there and allowed the time to pass, not because I had nothing to do, but because I chose not to do anything. That choice felt unfamiliar. I started thinking about my days, how they usually looked. Wake up, check the phone, rush through the morning, move quickly. Even when nothing was urgent, I still hurried, as if slowing down was dangerous. I asked myself when that started. When did rest begin to feel like a mistake? I didn't know the answer, but I knew the feeling. I watched the woman across the room close her book. She didn't look at the clock. She simply placed the book in her bag and stood up, calm, unbothered. I admired that. I wondered how often I allowed myself to leave something unfinished without guilt. Not often. My phone vibrated suddenly. The sound felt loud in the quiet room. I looked at the screen. A message. Nothing urgent. Still, my body reacted. A small tension in my chest. I noticed it, and then I did something new. I didn't open the message. I placed the phone back on the table, face down. That small action felt powerful. I realized how often my attention was pulled away by sounds, by screens, by expectations. Here, I could choose where my attention went, and I chose to keep it with myself. Time continued to move, slowly, quietly. I didn't count the minutes. I stopped checking the clock. A thought appeared in my mind. What if staying longer was exactly what I needed? Not escaping, not avoiding, just listening to the space, listening to my body, listening to my thoughts. Most days I didn't listen. I reacted. I noticed how my thoughts slowed down. They no longer jumped. From one worry to another, they became softer, less demanding. I thought about home, about how often I rushed there, only to feel restless again. The place wasn't the problem. My pace was. I understood something important. I carried hurry with me, even when there was no reason. Someone walked past my table. I looked up and met their eyes briefly. They smiled politely. I smiled back. That simple exchange felt human, real. I felt connected without speaking. That surprised me. Another realization came. I wasn't staying because I didn't want to leave. I was staying because I wanted to arrive. Arrive where? In myself. That thought stayed with me. It felt true. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I felt present, not thinking about later, not replaying earlier moments. Just here. I remembered how often I waited for permission to rest, permission to pause. No one ever gave it because no one could. I was the one who needed to allow it. The room began to change, not physically, but emotionally. It felt like a mirror, showing me how tired I really was. Not tired of work, tired of constant movement, of always needing to be productive. I noticed something else. I wasn't bored, and that was important. I used to believe that slowing down meant boredom, but this felt different. This felt full. I checked the time again. I had been there much longer than planned. That realization didn't scare me. It felt gentle. I asked myself another question. What would happen if I allowed this feeling to exist outside this room? Could I move slower tomorrow? Could I pause before reacting? Could I listen before rushing? I didn't need to answer immediately. The question itself was enough. Eventually, I knew it was time to leave, not because I felt pushed, but because I felt complete. I stood up slowly and picked up my bag. My body felt different, lighter. As I walked toward the exit, I noticed how quietly I moved. I wasn't in a hurry. Outside the city felt the same. Cars, sounds, movement, but I felt different inside. I walked at my own pace. I noticed details I usually missed, the color of the sky, the rhythm of my steps. Nothing extraordinary had happened. No big event, no dramatic moment. And yet, something had changed. I realized I didn't need a special reason to slow down. I didn't need permission. I just needed awareness. That day, I stayed longer than I planned. And in doing so, I finally listened to what I needed. Final reflection. Sometimes we leave too quickly, not because we want to, but because we think we should. Staying a little longer can teach us something about time, about pace, about ourselves. Outro, listening practice, and CTA. Now listen to the story again. Pause after each sentence and repeat using the shadowing technique. This will help you improve your English listening and speaking skills. Tell me in the comments, have you ever stayed somewhere longer than you planned and felt better because of it? If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to Dreamy English Stories for more calm and helpful English listening practice. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.